This is the HeyGears UltraCraft Reflex RS Turbo, and it is the newest resin 3D printer that HeyGears has put out. Now, I've done a video about this printer already, just going into a little bit more detail about how it's different from the original RS and what you can expect from it. So if you're interested in seeing that, go ahead and check out the link in the description and the link on the screen. It'll take you over to that video. But since I have been using the UltraCraft Reflex RS family of printers for several months, it's given me the ability to think about what could be done to make these printers better. What are some changes that I would like to see made with these particular printers? So I've created a list of potential changes that will be amazing to see in either the original UltraCraft Reflex line or the RS line. So the first change has to do with the build plate. Now, if you have your printer on a perfectly level surface and it's perfectly horizontal, when you're done printing, you are going to have a large pool of resin on the top of that build plate. And if you don't scrape it off or tilt it so that that resin can just drip back into the vat, then you're going to be wasting a decent amount of resin the moment you put it onto your tray or mat or whatever to get your prints off. It's all just going to spill all over the place. And it may not look like it's a lot of resin at first when it's on top of the build plate, but once you see it spread across your surface, it is quite a lot that you are wasting. So they need to do something about this build plate. Now, the original UltraCraft Reflex had many little holes in the build plate, and that allowed the resin to have a place to drip from. But it's not like that on the RS. And if they even develop maybe a curve on the plate so that the resin could just naturally drip and slope off the sides, that will be handy as well. Now, there are some developed solutions to this issue already, but it's still not ideal because it requires extra effort. For example, HeyGears did design an accessory that allows you to place it in front of the vat, and then you basically just sit the plate down into these grooves on that 3D printed object, and then that allows the resin to just kind of slowly drip back into the vat. Members of the community have even made some bracket pieces that you can attach to the Z arm and that you can hang the plate from so that it'll drip sort of at an angle. And while that's nice that those things are created, it goes to show that there is an issue that needs to be addressed, that needs to be already built in so that you won't need those types of accessories in the first place. So either completely redesigning the build plate so that it is either curved or so that it has a place for that resin to just drip away so that you don't have to worry about scraping it off afterwards or tilting it yourself would be amazing. And while we're at it, why not just add in a mechanism to have the plate tilted anyway, so that the bulk of the resin can be wiped away from the plate just in the process of it lifting and lowering and lifting and lowering. But when you're done, you want to make sure you get all those drips, have something built in that you can just hang the plate from, and the resin can flow from there as well. That'll also be useful. And while I'm on the subject of build plates, let's talk about quick release build plates. Now, this is a little bit of a tricky situation because Formlabs has something like this with their Form 4 and their Form 4L printers. It's really cool because instead of taking that metal scraper and scraping the prints off, there's this built-in mechanism that you basically press or twist and it just knocks your prints right off of the plate. So you don't have to worry about using that blade. And even PioCreate, that new 3D printer, that new Halot printer has a quick release function as well. I don't know if they did something to get around the patent that Formlabs has on that kind of technology, but they do have it. So I guess if you're creative enough, you can sort of get around that. And I know that HeyGears is well experienced in this field because not only do they do these consumer printers, but they also have these dentistry focused resin printers as well. And they even had this accessory that worked in conjunction conjunction with the build plate that had holes in it, that you can use this accessory to basically punch out the prints that are on the plate. And on one of their printers, they even have this like automatic release mechanism where it just looks like some sort of blade comes right across and just scrapes the prints right off of the plate. Now, I know that doing something like that will most likely lead to the printer costing a decent amount more, but it just shows that there are solutions to just grabbing the sharp knife and just scraping. Fortunately, even when I'm doing that, because of the way that this printer works with their resins and the settings that they have dialed in, I never have a hard time scraping things off the build plate. But I think moving forward, it would be nice to just try to get away from handling as much uncured liquid resin as physically possible. So even just taking that scraper and scraping things off and then having to pick the models up to put them somewhere to clean, it would be best if we could just have a build plate that we can twist or turn or do something and just have everything just plop right down into like a wash basket or something, just to kind of eliminate the handling. So on the next printer, something like that I think would be really amazing to have. Now, from the top with the build plate, let's go down into the vat. Now, the next printer, I would like to see a heated vat by default. Because right now, if you just buy a Ultracraft Reflex RS, for example, the heated vat is an option. It doesn't come with the printer. Now, its regular price is $1,000. That is on the more expensive size for a Resin 3D printer in the consumer space. And you have to spend more money in order to get a heated vat, whereas competitors don't have that. Competitors just mostly have a 3D printer that has a heated vat already. There is no option. That's just what you have. And considering that in a lot of places, it can get cold in the winter, or maybe it's just not all that warm year round, and you want to have consistently good prints that at least won't fail due to the temperature of the resin being a little bit too low, I think that you need to have a built-in heater no matter what. So no special heated vat and no other special accessories, just have it already built in. And another kind of con about the way that the Reflex RS printers work right now when it comes to the heated vat is that it requires a completely separate power source. So you already have like the external big power brick that is just going to hang out on your floor or on your counter or something while it's plugged into the wall. Well, the identical power brick is going to be needed for when you want to use the heated vat. So it just takes up more outlets, it takes up more space, and it's just more wires hanging around. So it'd be great to have a more streamlined approach so that you just have one plug that you can plug into the wall. And that one plug is going to take care of the printer and all of its power, as well as the heated vat, just to free up a little bit more space for you. Now, on the software side, the Blueprint Studio is the only way that you can slice files for the Ultracraft Reflex printers. And personally, I'm fine with that. I don't really care. But there are some things that can be improved on it. The biggest issue with the Blueprint Studio software, in my opinion, is always supports. It can be aggressive with its auto supports, and it has a tendency to leave these little tiny, I want to call them like support barbs in small areas around your model. And this will be very, very noticeable if you're printing like miniatures that have a lot of detail, a lot of crevices, a lot of little small areas. You'll have your longer supports, but you'll also get the little tiny little like a 1/4 of an inch supports under eyelids or under necks or behind ears, just in all these little spaces. And after you remove the bulk of the supports and you cure it, you're going to have to look over the model and see where those little tiny other little supports are. And what I do is I have a long wooden skewer and I just kind of have to pluck them off one by one until I remove as many of them as I can see. Now, when I print with other models that are pre-supported, for example, those little tiny barbs and stuff are never there. It's usually just a model on a structure of supports. And once you remove it from that larger structure of supports, for the most part, the model is clean and you don't have to worry about just picking everything off like that. So it would be amazing if HeyGears were able to just eliminate those little tiny supports everywhere and just provide a more solid single structure like someone would do with pre-supported models. And speaking of pre-supports, being able to have official support for pre-supported models inside Blueprint Studio would also be very, very great. Now, I have printed pre-supported models on the UltraCraft Reflex RS before, and I haven't had any problems with it. And personally, when I did use some pre-supported models, they would be easier to remove than the automatic supports that the HeyGears Blueprint Studio would come up with. But at the same time, I've seen a lot of different posts that say that when they've tried to use pre-supports, it didn't work out so well. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but some official support to say if you want to use pre-supports, the printer's going to realize that and is going to work with it accordingly. That will be amazing because it will really help with the quality of the miniatures, especially if you get a modeler that really knows what they're doing with supports. It will leave behind as few divots and bumps and just imperfections as possible so you can have a more complete model fresh off the build plate. And what about a camera? On a resin printer that's like $1,000, wouldn't it be amazing if there was a camera on the inside of it? Not just for making like time lapses that you're going to put on Instagram, but, just to monitor your print. Once it gets to a certain height and you want to make sure that nothing has failed because maybe the failure algorithms that the printer has that will be able to detect peeling force that's not happening or detecting residue from the vat. What if that doesn't work and you just need a human eye to be able to look at it and say something has gone wrong? A camera will be very helpful in that regard. But this does not come with a camera. So if the next printer does come with a camera, that would be great. Or failing that, support for a third-party camera, like a USB web camera. If you're not using the USB port on this printer, maybe you can just plug that in and find a way to just rig the camera somewhere inside the printer and then be able to access that from the slicer and from the mobile app as well so that you can just keep an eye on how things are progressing. And then once the prints are done and you are ready to wash them, it would be great if the wash station were bigger. Because here's the thing, the wash station does not fit the build plate of the RS. It fits the build plate of the original UltraCraft Reflex, but the plate on the RS models are a little bit bigger. So you can't just take it off of the printer and just put it right down into the wash station, the HeyGears official wash station, and just get rid of all the resin on the models and all the resin on the plate and just have things nice and clean. It doesn't work that way. So maybe I think it's time to either redesign the wash station altogether, or if you can create a larger reservoir that can accommodate the RS plate, that would be really useful. But the wash station from HeyGears, I'm not the biggest fan of, just in the way that it violently shakes all of the prints and it just knocks them against each other. And you can control the rotations per minute that the wash station does. But all the other wash stations that I see out there, even the ones from companies like Formlabs, they just don't shake your stuff violently into the walls. It has like some sort of impeller system that rotates really, really fast and it just creates that cleaning vortex. So maybe trying something like that instead of just violently shaking everything, or maybe if there could be an ultrasonic cleaner of some kind, I think that would be even better. But, as helpful as the wash station is in being able to automatically set the parameters for how it's going to clean according to the resin that you have from HeyGears, and you send that file from the cloud to the wash station, that's nice to have. But I just think that the method of cleaning it should be different, especially if you're dealing with models that have smaller parts, things that can break, thin parts like swords. If you're washing it really hard and you got a bunch of different models and they're just knocking into each other, it might end up damaging some stuff. So I think looking into how the wash station is done is in order. And the last thing that I can think of when it comes to how I would improve the HeyGears Ultracraft Reflex RS, or even the original Ultracraft Reflex model of printers, is an exhaust port somewhere on the back. An exhaust port so that you can connect a hose to, and then you can extract the fumes from the resin printing somewhere outside. This printer does not have that. The Ultracraft Reflex doesn't have that as well. I think I've heard someone from HeyGears say that they were coming up with a solution for that had something to do with where the resin bottles in the back can go, and some sort of structure that would be using that port, and that would work as an exhaust somehow. I haven't seen anything come from that as of yet, but that also gets in the way of, well, what if you want to use that port to actually hold the bottle of resin? Then you won't have anywhere to exhaust those fumes. So, for the people who want to be more health conscious and don't want to be breathing in resin, they have the ability to exhaust those fumes to the outside. I think we should give them a way to do that, because currently on this machine, there is no port for that. So anyway, those are all of the things that I could think of right now that I would do to improve upon the next iteration of Ultracraft Reflex printers as they are. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again a million times after this. These are very, very good printers, but that doesn't mean that they cannot be improved. There's always room for improvement. And I think those things will help this printer, this family of printers, continue to have longevity and satisfy the needs of the people who purchase them. But if you have these printers, or even if you don't have these printers, and you can think of some other way that they can be improved upon, please let us all know down in the comments. And if HeyGears looks at this, maybe they'll say, hey, we'll look into that, and maybe our ideas will be implemented, because that's how you make a good product. So if you enjoyed this video and you enjoy content like this, and you got value from this, most importantly, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel and leave a like if you like it, and come back later, because I'll always have more coming about 3D printers and the world of 3D printing in general. So until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll speak to you soon.